Welcome back to another episode of Chargers Powder Hour. Chargers defeat the Jets 27-6 last night on prime time Monday Night Football. This is a rare victory Tuesday edition of the podcast. But my man, how we doing? How we feeling after last night's huge dub?
What a way to go about it. 2 weeks in a row, primetime, massive dubs by quite the lofty margins, and really just, I would say, just kind of pure dominance, especially on the defensive side of the ball last night. Did not give up a touchdown. I haven't seen a stat or anything, but how long has it been since we've won a game without giving a touchdown? I would love to look that up. I'm going to here pretty quick, but I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time this defense was able to play this dominant. I mean, last week was one thing. This week was, I mean, the D line is back. Concerns about Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. You can toss them out the window for now, and I'm liking where we're sitting here at 4-4. We've had some ups and downs so far this season, but happy to be back on a nice little win streak here.
Yeah, it feels great, man. It's crazy how much one win can do for a fan base, for a team, for pretty much everyone involved. And yeah, it definitely feels like there is new life in the season for the Chargers, which we'll get into all that too. Just the implications of this game and what it really means. But before we get into all that, Colin Appel and Miles Raruka here. We are your co-host, and my man, are you sipping on anything tonight?
I don't got anything on me, man. I'm sorry.
Damn, letting me
I
down
know I'm
again,
let
bro.
I know I'm letting you down, but I mean, let's be real. If I did have something, I would just sit here and say, "Hey guys, I'm drinking another Coors Light," and you guys would be like,
Hey,
"Yawn."
that's fine.
So,
That's better than nothing.
I mean, it is better than nothing, but no, I'm dry. I actually finished off my last few for the game last night, so I figured I'd probably take drinking during the typically stressful football game over saving them for here tonight. So,
That's fair. I'm still working on my case of Pacificos that I got over the weekend, so just about to, getting ready to finish that case, and then by the time we record the Lions preview, I'm sure I'll probably be on to something new. So yeah, I got a nice little Pacifico here, nice little cerveza, and I'm ready to go over this game, man. This was a huge game. It was a huge win for the Chargers. Huge playoff implications for both teams coming into this game. Chargers 3-4, Jets 4-3, and the Chargers really, I mean, they took advantage of this opportunity from the jump. We obviously got to see Darius Davis show off the Jets last night, which was freaking awesome. Such a cool way to score the opening touchdown of the game too, and it really just set the tone for the entire night, for the defense, for the offense. Even though it might not have looked the prettiest, but they did enough to get the win, which is the big thing. And yeah, man, now here we sit at 4-4, heading into another crucial game. I feel like there's going to be many of these quote unquote crucial games throughout the season. Just leading up to, you know, December, down the stretch, trying to get into the playoffs. So I feel like this is going to be something that we're probably just going to have to get used to for the time being. But another huge opportunity for the Chargers this week. But yeah, altogether, man, I was impressed with what I saw on defense. I think most people were. I mean, to not allow a touchdown, yeah, I don't know the last time that they did that. Well, probably the Broncos game a few years ago, that when they shut the Broncos out.
oh yeah, totally forgot about the game, but that's got to be the last time. That's the last time that comes to my mind, anyway.
Which was that one even in SoFi, or was that at StubHub?
I want to
I
say
can't
that
even remember.
was at.
I think it was StubHub.
It might have been at StubHub. I don't know. Don't quote us on that. If any of you guys know exactly, please let us know. But yeah, 2 out of 3 facets of the game of our team were absolutely lights out last night. That being the defense, special teams all over. Man, we don't typically have a little section to talk about special teams, but really just got carried by it last night. I mean, Darius Davis out of the gates, massive punt return. Cameron Dicker kicked 2 field goals, one from 55. I mean, he's been lights out this year, especially over 50 yards. We've talked so much in the past about, we know how consistent he is within 40 yards, but is this one of those things that we're going to have those troubles kicking those long field goals? And I mean, so far this year, he's been lights out on long kicks. So really just
Yeah.
a great special teams performance all over the place. Really just set the tone for the night, as you said, with that Darius Davis return.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. It just doesn't feel like we've had many opportunities to really talk up our special teams unit over the last few years. But yeah, I mean, Cameron Dicker is literally a savior in the eyes of tons of Chargers fans all around the world. I mean, for someone to come in and be ice cold, I mean, he was another guy that this team had a kicker. This team had their quote unquote, kicker for the next couple of years in Dustin Hopkins. And they went out and got him via free agency. They brought him in, they were committed to him. And, an opportunity opened up for Cam Dicker and made the most of it, became a really cool, fun storyline last year. And, obviously got the nod to be the starting kicker here this year. Chargers trade Dustin Hopkins preseason, and yeah, man, it's. I mean, special teams as a whole has been solid, but it's really satisfying to know that you have a dude at kicker because so many times, I mean, we've seen it where these games come down to one kick. Whether it's to tie it, send it to overtime, win the game. Make it a 2 possession game, whatever it may be. There's been way too many times where a missed kick has haunted the Chargers and some of those really tough losses. So, dude, yeah, that 55 yarder was dead center. I mean, it probably would have been good from like 58, 59. Um, I mean, he hit the shit out of that thing.
Yeah, I mean, we got to give a lot of props to Ryan Fick and what he's done with, I mean, both
Yeah,
these units. It really feels like, other than that one missed field goal in Minnesota and the punt return in the fourth quarter against the Chiefs, this unit has been really lights out all year. It just feels like anytime there's a punt in the air, J.K. Scott with that hang time, there's always a guy that's able to get down there. So,
yeah.
I mean, you can tell that they're coached very well out in the field, and I mean, it's really fun just to see some of those younger guys be able to fly around.
Yeah, yeah, I love the energy that they have on that unit. And they yeah, I feel like they've always had some special or some solid special teams players over the last few years. But yeah, I mean, huge shout out to Ryan Ficken for what he's been able to do with that unit. And that's just one more phase of the game where you can kind of check off like, all right, we've solved that issue that's plagued us for the last better part of a decade. That's something that I think we've finally really nailed down. So you got to give credit to Staley for that, especially bringing him in, Ficken that is, and you know, making that a focal point of his staff when he got the job. Was like, okay, one thing that we're not going to be shitty at is special teams. So yeah, that's made a world of a difference, even in games where you don't necessarily notice it. It's definitely made a difference. So yeah, and then going over to the defensive side, man, this team is starting to pick up a little bit of steam on the defensive side of the ball, which I love. I think they're really starting to kind of come into their own. I think they're starting to play a little faster. Some of these young guys are really shining. Got to give love to my boy Thule. Had another monster game last night, along with, I mean, the whole edge rushing group last night just went nuts. Obviously Joey Bosa, 2.5 sacks. Khalil Mack, I don't know, can't remember how many he finished with. Was it either one or two? But I think
Khalil
they
had
all
two.
combined. Yeah, they combined for a total of like 8, I want to say, which is just insane. Um, so they're definitely feeling it, man, and that's great because you need a solid pass rush to win games in this league, especially late in the year, especially in the playoffs. If your pass rush is non-existent, it does not spell good things for you as a team. So that's a unit of this defense that I'm really excited about, and the guys on the back end too. I feel like since this team has dumped J.C. Jackson, uh, these DBs have really kind of stepped up and embraced the opportunity that they have, and they're just scrappy, man. Like Michael Davis, I don't know what it is. Always takes a few games every year to kind of get up to speed, but man, once he does, dude is like once he gets into his groove, dude is solid. Oh, did your mic go out? Your mic is out.
Yeah, my
Uh,
bad. I'm back. I'm back. You got me?
oh yeah, I got you.
All right, cool. But yeah, defensive side of the ball, I'm really happy you started with that. I just really wanted to save the offense for later, as I think we can get into some rabbit holes for that. But yeah, I mean, up front, like you said, Joey Bosa 2.5, Khalil had 2, Thule had 2, and I want to say that he set the rookie record for pressures. Thule did last night.
Damn.
I believe he finished with like 9 pressures. Just an insane number. It's not even the sack numbers that really stand out for Thule. When you just watch him on the field, he frees up so much for those other guys to eat. I mean, he's taken on 2 guys at once. He creates absolute havoc anytime he's in one of those pass rushing scenarios. And it's really awesome. I mean, I put out I commented something earlier. I said we should just pretend that QJ was our second round pick and Thule was our first round pick. And I feel like a lot of people wouldn't be so critical on QJ and realize, Thule's that guy.
Yeah.
Just what a steal in the second round. A name that you and I, neither one of us recognized when he was drafted. So, I mean, I'm really happy about it. Looking back, I would love to go back to our like post draft recordings and be like, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't really know much about this guy. Led the FBS in sacks, so I mean, he's probably going to be good.
It's probably not a
And I
bad
mean,
sign.
yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, and it's translated beautifully. But like you were talking about, I mean, my mic cut out, so I didn't quite hear you. But that defensive, those defensive backs are really getting after it. You mentioned something about Michael Davis is just due for at least 1 or 2 really good plays a game. Not that he isn't consistently a playmaker, but I'm saying like he's due for a PBU or a pick or a big tackle for loss when you need him most. Seemed like he was all over the place last night. And I mean, another guy that really has blown me away since he's come back has been Alohi Gilman. I really
Yeah.
think that we have found our set in stone, safety opposite side of Derwin James. Should he be able to stay healthy? That dude is everywhere. I mean, he had that
Yeah.
strip on Garrett Wilson. He had a massive hit to break up the third down on the drive before. He returned that fumble. In my opinion, he scored. I picked defensive
We were so
touchdown.
fucking close, bro. We
Hey,
were so fucking close.
I should have said ESPN fantasy defensive touchdown because that includes special teams. So
All
I should
right.
have went with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That should have been the safe option, but that was bullshit. I didn't think his foot was touching out. I
I
thought he got
immediately
in.
thought of you. I was like, no, Miles is gonna be so fucking
I
pissed.
was so pissed, dude. I knew it. I had a vision. I saw it happen. But
That's
either way,
funny.
punched it in on next play. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
story is like Alohi Gilman's been very, very solid when he's
Yeah.
been on the
No,
field
I
this year. I want to say this has been his probably his best game I've seen him play. The other one that comes to mind would be that Cleveland game where he had the pick in
yeah.
the end zone last year. But I mean,
Yeah.
he was everywhere last night.
He's just made plays since he's been a Charger. He hasn't always had the most opportunities. For a while there, he was kind of like the third safety on the depth chart behind Nasir and Derwin. But he's always made the most of his opportunities. And like, yeah, dude, just before your mic cut out, I was basically just giving flowers to the entire DB group because they've been solid the last couple weeks, and I know that it's the Bears and the Jets, so like I get that, but uh, there's something about this organization, man. Like I don't know if it's a Tom Telesco thing, but it really feels like, and we've talked about it before. Like sometimes some of these some of these picks just take 2-3 years to really hit their stride and then really start to produce, um, dividends for you as a team. I mean, there's way too many examples. I mean, not only just on this current roster, but over Tom Telesco's entire tenure of guys that, first year disappointment, second year, oh man, not looking great. Third year, hold the phone, like pretty solid. Fourth year, damn, he's a starter and he's like one of our best players on that side of the ball. fifth year, okay, we're gonna extend him because we can't, we can't let that guy walk. So like,
Or
and
we let him walk in
or we
typical
let him
Charger
walk.
fashion.
Actually, that actually has been more so the
That's more
case.
typical, it feels.
Yeah, but like, there's way too many. I mean, I immediately think of Trey Pipkins is a solid example. Rashawn Jenkins, another Michael Davis. I mean, I know there's a ton. These are just like guys off the top of my head that I can think of. Nasir Adderley, even after his disappointing rookie year, Mike Williams on the offensive side of the ball. So it's just sometimes that transition from college to the pros really does take a couple of years, and it's sad because when you think of the the average lifespan of an NFL career, it is like 3 years. So a lot of these guys, like when they make the transition to the league, they don't even really get an opportunity to really figure it out before they're unemployed. Like it happens so fast. And if you're not, I mean, some guys can just step in and excel and take off, and those are special dudes. But I mean, it really just shows a testament to one of these players, specifically this defensive back group, the work that they put in, the coaching, all that goes into it, the offseason work. And yeah, dude, they've been balling out. And what I was saying about Michael Davis, I don't know what it is. Every year it seems like it takes him like 4 or 5 games to like get into his stride. But once he hits his stride, man, like he was our best coverage corner last year down the stretch by far. Like, dude was lights out. And he's starting to kind of get back to that form again. He's starting to heat up. But yeah, I don't know what it is about the slow start. It seems like every year, he gets off to a slow start, and I kind of see some rumblings online of, I don't know, like maybe we should just move on from him, blah blah blah. But then by the end of the year, it's like we have to re-sign Vato. Like, it it's been the last, like, especially the last couple contract years he's had with us. I feel like that's definitely been the case.
Totally. Yeah, something about him and slow starts. It does feel like that every year. I know there was a lot of people calling for him to be cut a few preseasons ago, like, being that he doesn't deserve a new contract and all this, but really he's like one of the most consistent guys on our team. It feels like once he hits that stride, once we get to about week 4 or 5, it feels like that defense starts to jive a little bit more. And
Yeah.
this has been a perfect example of it these last 2 weeks. I mean, after
Hmm.
we got just absolutely dismantled in Kansas City by that offense,
Yeah.
these last 2 weeks I know for me, it's given me a sense of a lot of false hope that this thing is really turning around. And I mean, next week against the Lions offense is going to be a real test to see if, this has
Yeah.
all been us playing shitty offenses or if this is legit and we can raise some expectations.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one to preview when we do that here in a couple days. But yeah, man, like, all in all, like, I feel like this team is really starting to jive. You saw all the post game celebrations last night in the locker room, which was cool to see. Just a bunch of guys celebrating a hard fought win. And yeah, man, like, it's look, they have their work cut out for him still. Getting back to 4-4 is huge. But I feel like more than anything, it just, I mean, I feel like where I was when we fought back from down 0-2 to get back to 2-2. So it's great that this team has some fight in them and some resilience in them to be able to get back to 500 and ultimately keep the main goal alive, which is get into the dance and make a run for the whole goddamn thing. So yeah, ultimately, like, they accomplished what they needed to last night, but it's, yeah, but this episode we get to celebrate. We just get to talk all the good things, and then come Thursday, we get to kind of move on from it and start worrying about the Lions. So, yeah, man. Just to flip it over to the to the offensive side of the ball.
I thought
As
you said
far
you wanted to talk about all good things this episode.
I mean, I definitely have some good nuggets for the offensive
No,
side
I
too.
know. I know.
I mean, look, the box score, when you look at it, and this is why I didn't even, and I did see some clips of some sports talk shows this morning that
Oh my, they were
just made me want to
brutal.
fucking claw my eyes out or
They were
my
brutal
ears
this
out.
morning.
So yeah, I didn't pay too much attention to that, but Yeah, and I get it. The box score wasn't the prettiest thing to look at, but everyone saying that Herbert isn't elite after a performance like that is off their goddamn rocker. Like, let's not forget what that defense, which by the way is a top, it's probably number one or number two. Well, them in Cleveland. I don't know. I mean, I know what
Baltimore.
the stats will say one's clearly the best right now, but I really think the Jets. I mean, that just seeing that unit, us go against them and then watching them in prime time over the last couple of weeks, I really think they're the best passing defense in the league. And what it just it's more proof to the pudding when you see what they've done against guys like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, and now Justin Herbert. So Justin Herbert had the second highest QBR of those four quarterbacks the Giants or the Jets have faced this year, and didn't throw a single pick. I
Yeah.
think Josh Allen threw three picks. I think Mahomes threw two. I want to say Hurts threw a couple when they played him. So he did what he had to do last night. Justin Herbert. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't the sexiest performance. He didn't drop 303 touchdowns, but he made the throws that he needed to win the game, to put the game away. Some throws that we saw him miss a couple weeks ago in prime time against the Cowboys. So it's really at the end of the day, like it annoys the piss out of me that like Justin Herbert cannot have one bad performance. Like it's not even a bad performance. He can't have like an average performance. Otherwise, like everyone comes for him. It's like, oh, he's not elite. He's not. Look at his record. Look at blah 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 blah. It's like, all right, let's not act like Joe Burrow didn't throw for 80 yards in the fucking season opener. Or like any of these other quarterbacks didn't just have not great games against that defense. So, yeah, if oh my god, if Patrick Mahomes had a game like Justin Herbert, we would be like, oh my god, he made the plays when he needed to most. He's the MVP. He's amazing.
Look at this play by Mahomes. I mean, like, yeah,
I don't let
same
the
shit every
box
time.
score fool you. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I didn't pay too much attention to the morning talk shows, and at the end of the day, man, like this offense, it wasn't sexy, but it was enough. And we talked about how big Austin Eckler was going to be going into this matchup, and he proved to be a huge impact on that game. They didn't get much going on the ground, which I was a little frustrated with. I thought they didn't really try to attack the rushing game really much at all. Just maybe besides a couple runs here and there to kind of keep him honest. Um, but other than that, I mean, Eckler, it doesn't matter if it's a run or if it's a pass. I said this on the pregame episode. You just gotta find him in space and let him bounce off some guys. Carry a pile, shed some tackles. Pick up a first. Um, you know, Whatever it is, and they did that. They had enough plays where the offensive line wasn't giving him or giving Herbert a ton of time, but enough time to be able to make that one extra read or get to a check down. And I'm never gonna complain about a check down to a guy like Austin Eckler. You can check down as much as you want because 9 times out of 10 that's going to go for at least 5 yards.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of checkdowns, dude, I think Austin had 3 drops last night,
Yeah,
on a
it
few
was a little
big
sloppy.
downs. I mean, there was that one third, and I want to say like 19. They ran that screen to him, and he had a lot of room. Knowing a guy like Austin Eckler, who doesn't even need that much room, he had a lot to work with. So, I mean, there
Yep.
were definitely a few missed opportunities by him to build on an even better night. But yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, other than the Miami game, I think Austin Eckler's at like 3 yards per carry so far on the season. Josh Kelly was able to be a little bit efficient. His first 2 carries went for 12 or 13 yards. Yeah, I kind of want to see him get worked in a little bit. It feels like they kind of get Kelly going a bit, and then it's
Just
Eckler's
throw it.
time
Yeah.
to shine. And I think a big reason of that is that we abandoned the run too soon. And when you have such a lethal receiving threat like Austin Eckler, it's very
Yeah.
tempting to just want to keep him in the game. But I do like really what we've seen from Kelly so far this year. This has been by far his best year of his career, in my opinion. I mean, we've seen more long runs from Josh Kelly over the first 8 weeks this season
Yeah,
than we have his whole career combined. So
it's another one of those guys that took a couple of years, but was basically left for dead, and found a role on this team. So yeah, that he's
I,
just another example.
I don't get me wrong. I don't think Joshua Kelly is like a long-term running back option, but I think he's a
Sure.
very
Yeah.
suitable RB2 who has looked much more explosive than we've seen him look in the
Yeah.
past. So it's really nice to have a secondary option like that. But yeah, like you mentioned, man, the Herbert criticism, he can't win, man. Like, I mean, he's winning on the field, but on social media, this dude just stays taking strays.
Well,
Uh,
dude, last night was a loss either way for him because if he wins, he did win that game, and you saw the reaction today. If he loses that game in some fashion, like if the defense gave up 60 points and 600 yards last night, and we lost, he's getting like all the fucking like
oh yeah,
it's just like, all right, everyone, fucking step up and take your best fucking dig at Justin Herbert. Like, it's ridiculous, man. The one guy that does defend him pretty well, and I feel like is the one like big media personality that seems to understand like, hey, like wins are not all entirely a quarterback stat, and that's Colin Coward.
I was about to say, yeah. Colin Coward, shout out him. I don't agree with a lot of his takes, but I mean, anybody who
Yeah, some
respects.
of his. I mean, like they all are gonna have terrible takes at some point. Like they all say they stay up and watch every second of every game, but a lot of those are just shit's being fed into their ears, or they're reading off a teleprompter. So like they're gonna have some takes here and there that sure just don't land, but for the most part, I can tell Colin watches a decent amount of NFL, and I feel like he talks to a lot of like GMs, and he's kind of in that scene too. So like he's got a pretty good understanding of the talent level, and just you know when you break down other quarterbacks in this league, like not everyone has like, to me, the people that are like, oh, elite talent doesn't mean you're an elite quarterback. 100% it does, because otherwise you're just a quarterback that benefits from a system. Like you're just a system guy. And if you get taken out of that system, like, oh, all of a sudden, okay, you come back to like, you're not Superman. You're just another dude. I feel like there's a lot of those quarterbacks in the National Football League that and rightfully so, like GMs, coaches, they all have to cater to what they have on the roster. So like it makes sense, but at the same time, like it's just, it blows my mind how obviously incredibly talented Justin Herbert is. I mean, it never makes sense in my brain. Like all the oohs and ahs over his throws and his highlights, and you know all these record-breaking performances that he's had in his career, but then he still gets the short end of the stick because he's now 29 and 28 as a career starter. Like it just doesn't add up. Like the math doesn't math for me. Like either fucking love him, or I guess, I mean, a lot of people already hate him, which whatever, but like to see the media kind of go back and forth on it is the most annoying part to me, because a lot of it's just divided. Like you have certain shows where I don't know if their agenda is just a shit on certain dudes, but then you have other guys like like the Rich Eisens and the Colin Cowards of the sports media world, which I value their opinion way more over someone like fucking Joy Taylor or fucking
Sam
Gerald
Acho.
McCoy, whatever dumbass shit Gerald McCoy was trying to spew this morning. Like, yeah, it blows my mind.
Yeah, shout out Sam Acho for nothing. But
You mean
yeah, that
Emmanuel Acho?
Emmanuel Acho. Sorry, Sam's his brother, but I don't
Yeah.
care. I don't. Anytime he opens his mouth, I immediately just turn it off. So, but yeah, I think that there's two groups of QBs in this league. There's QBs that you can win with, and there's QBs that you win because. And time again, Justin Herbert has proved that he's a QB that you win because. I mean, just look at the Raiders game, in Las Vegas 2 years ago to send us to the playoffs. We didn't lose that game because of Justin Herbert. The only reason we were even close in that game was because of Justin Herbert. We lost
Yeah.
that game because we gave up 36 to a shitty offense. Like,
And
yeah,
turned the ball
this
over and got off to just a slow start. Yeah, it just
exactly. And I'm the stat speaks for itself. Justin Herbert has scored less points in his career than his defenses have given up. And it does not matter how you fill up a stat sheet whether you do or not. You're not going to win as much as your talent shows when your
It's
defense
almost
is
like
consistently giving up like 27 a year,
it's
27 a
almost
game.
like it's almost like Caleb Williams fucking sucks, bro.
Yeah.
Like that's the logic. That's the logic. Caleb Williams should not go number 1 this year because
Oh, everyone
he
hates
can't
Caleb
win.
right
But he's
now.
not a winner, bro. Like I'm sorry. Like all he can give you is 47 points a game. I'm
His
sorry.
defense,
That's
dude,
not enough, bro. Like like
Caleb's
as
defense is averaging
if dude,
45 a game, bro.
if
That's
you were a
crazy.
guy, you wouldn't average 47. If you were that dude, you wouldn't average 47 points a game. You'd average 50. You'd average that 3 more to win, right? Like it's nonsense. It's like yeah, like that's just a little side analogy of that logic, but yeah, it makes no fucking
Tell
sense.
me you don't know ball without telling me you don't know ball, basically. I can tell who knows ball and who doesn't based on Justin Herbert opinions. And I
Yeah.
mean, that's obviously completely biased on my part, but the arm talent is, I mean, it's alien like.
It's,
Like
yeah,
it's
it's not even
it's
that. It's his touch. It's his, I mean, you just don't like. You can be a great college quarterback, and a lot of those great college quarterbacks never even sniff at NFL success. It's just the jump is so incredibly insane, and it's clear. I mean, I have 32 quarterbacks. There's probably like 8 good ones, like really good quarterbacks. And of the 8, there's probably only like 4, maybe. I mean, probably 4, maybe half of that is like considered elite. So I get it if you're trying to define elite as like top 3 or 4, but I feel like at this point I think 5 is like a healthy, like if you're top 5, I think that's considered elite. 5 to 10, you're good. You're really good. And I think at that point it just depends on the year by year, because you could be number 7, and if you're having a MVP type year, you're going to be catapulted into that top 5. They're like
yeah.
5 through 10 or 6 through 10 are just kind of interchangeable. Like if they get hot, that like to me, Philip Rivers was like a 6 through 10 quarterback. Like I still thought he was elite, but he just kind of hovered at like that 6-7 mark. And then when he had those years where he was like hitting MVP numbers by like week 9, week 10, like yeah, sure, I would consider him a top 5 quarterback for those specific years, top 3 even on a few years. But yeah, it's just everyone's got different criteria. Everyone's gonna, have their own opinion on what that looks like. But yeah, it's just at the end of the day, like I think you put it in a great way. It's just who knows ball based off Justin Herbert takes. Like, even if he's not in your top 4, top 5, to say he's trash and not elite is just wild.
To say that he's worse than Tua is like to say that he's worse than Tua is literally probably the biggest insult ever. You watch that dude play. I want there to be some sort of simulation where I could put Justin Herbert on the Dolphins offense for
I
just like a few
stopped.
games.
Yeah, I stopped really like caring about that
I know. I mean, now that
like
we're past week
comparison,
one,
just because
I get
like
it. But
once I knew like the real like the real ball knowers in the media world, like like guys like Rich Eisen, Colin Coward, some of this, specifically talking like NFL here. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's such a fan fucking driven narrative. Like people in the media know who's fucking better, obviously, clearly. Has Tua had a incredible like turnaround to his career? 100%. But again, he's a system guy. Like
yeah,
like what
uh,
Flores had him on the way like out of the league, or at least like backup level quarterback on the trajectory he was heading. And then Mike McDaniels comes in, and now all of a sudden Tua is like top 7, top 8. Like that's the definition of a system guy, benefiting from a certain scheme. And again, like it's not the Dolphins' fault. Like that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna try to cater to what you have. And Mike McDaniels, man, he's a hell of a coach, and he's gotten a lot out of Tua. So I mean, yeah, but it's insane, man. I really was not expecting all of that this morning, and I got on social media, and I'm like, wait, what are
it's
all
like
these takes,
it's
bro?
expected at this point. I mean, at this point, like it doesn't matter. You've with that kind of box score. I mean, yeah, Herb probably didn't play the best game of his career, but against that Jets defense, like you mentioned, he was
Yeah.
He's been second in
Also had, like
QBR,
you
and the
said, I
only
mean,
one was zero
there's
turnovers.
there's drops and all that
Yeah,
stuff in there too. So,
exactly.
I mean, ultimately, yeah, is it a sexy performance? No, but was it a winning performance? Yes. So it's like he can't win because you knock him on he has great stats and you knock him on his record. And he wins the game and you knock him on his stats. So yeah, can't win, but then again, like who really cares? The real ball knowers know what's good.
I do want to ask, while we're on the topic of offense, I mean, obviously, we know Justin Herbert's not necessarily the issue. You know, we've seen him look healthier and healthier, dealing with that finger. But how concerned are you about this offense going forward? I mean, it just felt like obviously against a very talented defense, but we couldn't get anything going. You know, the only offensive drives that we really scored on, we started at the 50-yard line on one, at the 1 yard line on another, and I mean, other than that, you know, we had a punt return touchdown and then a few field goals. So I mean, just taking, you know, Herbert, offensive line, receiving weapons. How concerned are you about this unit going forward?
Yeah, that's such a good question. All right, I'm gonna say this. I don't think maybe I've hinted at it on the pod. I don't think I've directly come out and like stated my opinion, and also because like I wanted to wait more time and I didn't want to be rash, and this still might be a little rash because we're like barely halfway through the season. I have not been impressed with Kellen Moore's play calling. I really haven't. Um, there's been some games where it looks better than others, but then looking back on a few performances as well, kind of scratching my head as to why that was the game plan, or like the game plan that week. I mean, I think back to like Miami week 1, we ran the ball so incredibly well, but refused to really push the ball downfield in the air. Even games like last night, where it seems like we were definitely going to take advantage of that run defense, and we just completely said, no, we're not going to do that. Like, we're going to try to pass on one of the best passing defenses in the league. And I just thought the creativity, and not to say that, I mean, we haven't seen everything in his bag. I mean, I feel like we've seen a good amount of it at this point. But I also, like, I just really thought he was going to be different from the last couple of like OCs that we brought in, where it's like, oh, maybe not Lombardi, but like if you think back to like Wiz and Hunt, or like even a few other guys that we've had. Um, yeah, it just, like when I think of like the OC that I want, or maybe even like future head coach that I want, like this offensive to like be focused around. I think of guys like Andy Reid, like Mike McDaniels, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay. Um, I mean, even guys like Ben Johnson. I love Ben Johnson, man. If I were running the Chargers, I'm firing Staley and hiring Ben Johnson. Like, that's just me. But, and I get that's probably not the most popular take, but when I watch the Lions, like when that offense is cooking, I'm just like, dude, the creativity is insane. Like, that's what really blows me away from an offensive standpoint, especially when you have all the weapons that you have. Like, come on, like, I just watch the Lions offense and I'm like, I start to drool when I think about like what that could look like with with the personnel that the Chargers have. And that's the meme. It's like society if like Kyle Shanahan, or someone like Sean McVay was running the Chargers offense. Like, we'd be in a futuristic society at this point.
Yeah, I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I mean, obviously, it's been a massive step up from a guy like Joe Lombardi or anybody that
Sure.
we've really had on our step. Maybe not Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen was a very good play caller, but
See, I
like, I
almost brought
mean,
him up, but that's a different situation because like we fired Wiz and Hunt, so
yeah,
that was
yeah,
like,
I know, but yeah, I think that's a really good point. It does seem like there's just an element of like we've seen this before. You know, there's not much creativity that goes into it. I mean, that Mike Williams double pass against Minnesota was awesome, but what else have we seen that we haven't really seen before? So I do
yeah,
think that he could be more creative, and there are times that it feels like he goes away from what's working to seek other tendencies. And I just think I think it could be more consistent. Like, he doesn't have to get, you know, necessarily too fancy. Just run what works, and
yeah,
or run what has been working, because it feels like it's week and week again that we're talking about them abandoning the run game, or abandoning, well, it's never been abandoning the pass game, but abandoning the things that have been working.
Yeah, and so like I mean, just to bring it back around to like the question, like how concerned am I about this offense? I'm really not concerned about the players. Like maybe if the offensive line like has some injuries over the next few weeks, and obviously like they're already missing Corey Lindsley, and like God help us, knock on wood, like God forbid any other of those guys go down and make it even tougher on the line. But like other than that, like I really like I have a lot of confidence in this and these players individually as a unit. It's just are we gonna get put in the best position possible to win games, to take advantage of to take leads, to pad leads, to kill clock, to like all that stuff is kind of where I'm more concerned at this point. Just more so than like, oh, I'm concerned about like our quarterback or our receiver. I mean, I am concerned about our receivers. I guess I will say that. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's more so at the moment like, I'm more concerned about the play calling and just kind of like disappointed we haven't. And again, it's early, so this even bringing it up at this point still might be a little rash. But it's just a little disappointed overall, I guess, up to this point.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think everything has really gone south since the Mike Williams injury and the Corey Lindsley injury. We saw a lot of flashes against the Bears last week of what this offense can do, especially now that, we have Austin Eckler back fully healthy. But I actually disagree with you slightly. I am a bit concerned about the players on the field. I know you just said you're concerned about the receivers, but I do have concerns about this offensive line, especially on the interior. This has been, well, especially last night. I mean, not a ton of time to throw, and just nobody was really getting open. It feels like this offensive line has just had weaker and weaker performances every week since, Corey Lindsley went down. And with no timetable for his return right now, I I mean, I have some concerns. Again, this is against the Jets defense we're talking about with, Quinn and Williams, Jermaine Johnson. But like there was one time in the game they sent 3 against 5 linemen and were able to get home with just a one-on-one on Trey Pipkins. So I do have a lot of concerns with the consistency of this offensive line and with the receiving room. I think the receiving room is really lacking a weapon. Mike Williams was kind of one of those guys that, not too much is open, but fuck it. We can put it in position for a 50-50 ball for a guy like Mike Williams. We don't necessarily have that kind of safety valve anymore, which has made it really tough on Herbert to be able to find, guys that can create separation.
Yeah.
Again, was against the Jets, but the Jets have, 5 or 6 Sauce Gardners in that secondary. There's holes there, and just not much was able to come free last night. And I think it's an area right now. I'm more confident in our defense than our offense currently. Anytime our offense touched the ball last night, I had zero confidence they were going to do anything with it. To be quite honest with you, and
See,
that's the first time that I could say that in a long
yeah,
time.
I disagree with that personally. I mean, I do. I get what you're saying. Like, I do think the offense has had they've been trending downwards. But yeah, I mean, I think it's more so like, I mean, look, Sauce Gardner, he's a top cornerback in the league. Also they had who was the other guy that play in the slot a lot?
Um, Adrian Amos,
No, not him. I can't think of his name. He's like one of the best slot receivers, though.
Darrell Revis,
Yeah, there it is, Deion Sanders. Anyways,
Leon Sandcastle.
yeah,
Oh,
I can't think.
DJ Reed.
Yeah, DJ Reed. Okay,
DJ
like
Reed.
I just feel like I mean, for what they were up against last night and that interior pressure as well. Like I'm not taking too much stock into the Lions' performance, or I mean, I will say I'm definitely like I will go back and say I'm definitely concerned about this receiving group, just because Mike Williams is a huge piece you're missing, not just for those 50-50 balls, but people just forget like how great his hands are. I mean, think about all. I mean, not. I mean, the go up and get him type plays for sure, but like even like plays that I'm thinking back to like the Kansas City game last year, the Thursday night game where he catches that pass in the corner of the like one-handed, like falling down in the corner of the end zone, like goes out and grabs it with one hand, kind of like brings it back into his body. And I mean, it just plays like that where it's like, okay, that's probably an incomplete pass to most receivers, but now you're able to turn it into 6 points. And then it's no surprise why a guy like Justin Herbert likes him so much. It's because he knows like there's an extra safety blanket there of, hey, even if like this ball does not have to be perfect on a rope. Like I have room for, I have some margin for error. I can maybe, put a little too much on it, and I know he's still going to be able to have that extra oomph to go and grab it and lay out for it. Or if I, don't put enough on it, or, leave it short, or it's out wide, he just has an amazing catch radius to to bring in those passes. So yeah, you definitely miss someone like that. And then Josh Palmer, man, like that's a huge missing piece for them as well. And the main reason I'm so concerned is because these aren't just injuries where they're day to day, week to week. We might see him next. No, it's Mike Williams is gone. Like he's not going to see him for a long time. And Josh Palmer is on IR. So he's going to miss some very crucial games down the stretch here over the next month. And so that's not a guy that you're going to get back anytime soon either. So what they got is what they got. And yeah, I mean that's the biggest concern for me, I guess, this offense, now that I take a second to really think about it, is just, are these guys going to be able to get open down the field, especially if the pass rush is getting home to Justin. He has even less time for these receivers to break out of their routes and to get open. So yeah, that's my biggest concern. I really think it would not surprise me at all if over the next couple weeks Justin really leans on the tight ends, Gerald Everett and Donald Parham Jr., because I think those are two very underrated pieces of the offense that, they're not focal points by any means, but he likes them. He trusts them. Um, and I think that's something that Kellen Moore can scheme up over the next couple weeks. It's like, hey, how do we get these guys more involved, make this, more of a focal point while, we're waiting for some of these receivers to get back.
I consider Donald Parham a very big weapon for this offense. I love it when that dude's on the field, not just in the red zone, but just with a 6'8" frame. That dude's catch radius is
And he can move.
insane. Yeah, and he can move for being a guy that big. And dude, Gerald Everett, I mean, that dude's a bowling ball with the ball in his
Dude,
hands. I
that
wouldn't be
pat
surprised to
that
see some, or I wouldn't be surprised to see some running back packages with him at the first, or
bro,
with
that
him at the
that
1 yard
his
line.
his pass he took last night for a first down when he was just like,
I mean, yeah,
you're thinking like, oh, he's gonna step out, he's gonna get like 3 or 4. Oh no, he leans back in, like
he
breaks the
tries to go,
tackle.
dude. He
He
goes
just dude,
beast quake anytime the
he
ball's in his
runs
hand.
so angry. Yeah, exactly. He literally, that's what I thought of. My God, that's such a Marshawn Lynch type like run right there of just
Like
like
he's got to
like
fall into the end
looking
zone and grab his nuts,
looking for
Just
contact, like, oh, you're right there, like you can get some of this too. Like,
yeah,
like
like
just
he would go direct. He would go out of his way to run through a fuck of face. I'm pretty sure. Like
yeah.
I don't think he cares. But dude, I do want to give a quick shout out. I don't really have much else to touch on the offense, but shout out. I don't even think we've said his name yet. Keenan Allen, 10,000 yards on a very sick catch. For some
Yeah.
reason, dude, that sideline throw seems to be, Justin's kryptonite this year, but slightly overthrown. But hey, Slayer's always open, and he made a play on it. So
Yeah, dude, got to give love to Slayer, man. Like, definitely one of my favorite Chargers of all time. Did not know, the first like back in 2013 when I was, going into my senior year of high school. Did not know that rookie that year would be, a player that not only is still here a decade later, but 10,000 yards, multiple, Pro Bowls, just a true like a pros pro and just a legend, a Chargers like certified Chargers legend. Probably, I mean, the best Chargers receiver of all time, which is insane when you think about some of the guys that have had come through here. Um, yeah, man, like I'll tell my kids about Keenan Allen. You know,
yeah,
my
I think
dad.
the coolest thing for me. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said my dad had Charlie Joyner and Kellen Winslow, and I had Keenan Allen. So
You had Keenan Allen and Malcolm Floyd.
and
Um,
Antonio Gates, Keenan Allen and
and
Antonio Gates.
yeah, exactly. Dude, I think the coolest thing for Keenan for me is he's gonna be my first Charger to watch his whole career. He's gonna be like the first one that I remember his breakout game against Denver rookie year, where he like
You
hurdled
mean
that
Philly?
dude in Philly. I remember. Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
Philly game as well. But like because we beat them on Thursday night, Peyton Manning and the
Oh yeah,
Broncos, and
that was
Keenan
huge. And when
Allen
he
2
hurdled that dude,
touchdowns. Yeah. So that's just going to be a really cool thing to see. I hope to God he retires a Charger. I mean, this organization loves him to death. It would be shocking to see him go anywhere else, especially with the kind of production that he's already putting up at 31 years old. I mean,
yeah.
K13 always open for a reason. So
And to think, bro, some people wanted
I know.
to cut him
Delete
this
if you
year
said that. Delete
for
your
cap
account,
issues.
please.
Dude, I never lost faith in him. I knew like it was such a bummer last year that he wasn't, that nagging hamstring injury that kept him out. But yeah, dude, I just knew. I was like, once he's back, he's still Keenan, bro. Like
He might
he's
be
still gonna
eternal.
be, dude. Yeah, like I mean, and then you think I had just a small like thought to myself last night. Like it's so crazy, like how he's never really been like the guy that people have like elevated to like like I feel like him and Devonte Adams are so similar, but everyone went on this binge of Devonte is like hands down undisputed number one, like for a couple of years, and then even before that it was D Hop had his moment in the sun for a season or two where it was like no one's better than D Hop, and then Antonio Brown, like there's been all these receivers over his era that he's been in the league that have been like the sexier receiver, they get more hype, they get more buzz for whatever. Odell Beckham Jr. Like there's a handful of guys, but Keenan Allen, dude, is by far one of the most consistent, dominant receivers of this era of NFL football. Like Devonte Adams, he's up there, but when I think of guys like OBJ, even Antonio Brown, like they just had these small. I mean, Antonio Brown had a longer stretch than OBJ, but guys like D Hop, yeah, I mean, just like yeah, you're great. You're all pros, but Keenan Allen's been doing this for a long time. The
They
consistency,
haven't.
and
Yeah.
they haven't had the consistency that Keenan's had, and Keenan's been hurt a lot too. Like Keenan's missed a couple seasons. I mean, think about the numbers that he has, and then think about where he would be with a couple of those seasons that he missed, 12, 14 games. It's like, it's insane.
Yeah, true. I mean, nobody's done it as well for as long as Keenan has. I mean, he better
Michael
be a
Thomas,
Charger.
bro, like
you're still after it, man. But
came and went.
yeah, hey, Keenan's that guy. Us Chargers fans know Keenan's that guy. Justin Herbert knows Keenan's that guy. And congrats on 10K. I didn't realize, dude. I didn't never realize he was that close to Antonio Gates until last night. For
It
all
was
time, he's
two
thousand
more
something yards away.
2 more seasons and he'll have it. So
I
if we bring
mean,
him back next year and then one more year after that, he should get the all
he's
time
only
Chargers
he's
record.
only 1,000 something away. I mean, he could get this
It's
thing
like
done.
1800. It's like 1800.
Okay, yeah, all right. I mean, you're
But he'll
you're such a
probably
glass half empty guy. He's getting this thing
okay.
done
If he
this
gets, let's
year.
say he gets another 600 over these last half of the season, so then he'll be like 1200 away. So yeah, he could. He actually
He
he
could.
could get it next year. A full season next year, similar production. Yeah, he could get it next year.
I'm rooting for it, man. Keenan better retire Charger. That's all I know.
I think it's in stone at this point. Like I think I'm not saying that the organization ever had doubts of moving on from him or anything like that, but I know there's been some buzz from fans, which I don't really take a whole lot of stock into. But if there were any ever doubt, I think that's been erased. Like, yeah, I think
Dude gets open.
there are certain candidates that I would prefer to be cap casualties this upcoming season, but I just don't think you can like Mike Williams. I would probably I'm ready to move on from Mike Williams more than I am Keenan Allen. Like
That
sad to
one's gonna
say,
that one's gonna suck too. But it's. I
but
mean,
like you got to
I
keep
know.
Keenan.
I
You got to
know.
keep Keenan.
I know. No, yeah, Keenan's not going anywhere. I'm really excited, dude. I'm really excited. Him and QJ over these next few years, might be like handing the torch off. So
Yeah,
who
for real,
knows?
bro. For
Might
real.
be
I mean,
might be that
mentor,
kind of odd.
yeah, mentorship goes a long way too, especially at that position. So
Yeah.
100%, man. That's a great point. Man, we kind of rolled through this whole thing just talking about instant reaction and offense and defense. But uh, any big takeaways? I mean, we've probably already mentioned a few already, but any other big takeaways that come to mind after last night's win?
Um, Not necessarily. I would say just one of my bigger things that I would love to see is it feels like this, especially the videos of the locker room afterwards. It feels like these guys really are, Brandon Staley. As much as we talk shit on Brandon Staley, it's like it's so far away from like a toxic relationship. It's so far away from like a Josh McDaniels situation. He
Yeah,
has he hasn't lost this locker room by any means. People are still buying in. I mean, one, because they have to, yeah, but the people, you could just say, fuck this and be a non-team player. But I mean, it really shows these guys are in it together, and I think that there's a lot of fun to still be had this season.
I think so too, man. I think so too. A lot of fun, and I'm sure there's gonna be some stress, anxiety,
Some
all
heartbreak.
that heartbreak, all wrapped into one. But yeah, dude, I think so too. I mean, this is where things get interesting, and where it's like I always try to zoom out after a win. It's one win. Yes, great. We're back to 500. Playoffs still alive. All that's still in front of us, and that's exciting. But then you got to zoom out and just acknowledge of where we are. We're 4-4, lost to a couple teams that we should not have lost to. We've had to already climb out of a couple holes this season, which isn't, that shows fight, shows resilience. That's not a bad thing. But then you got to look at our schedule and what's to come, and it's it. You kind of zoom out and look at the whole thing again. We've had the banner right here, Brandon Staley question mark, saved in in our queue of banners here for a couple weeks. So
It's
uh,
ready.
last night's another one of those games where you kind of just have to like zoom out and really reevaluate. Not to say that one game saved his job or restored whatever faith or hope had been lost in him. It's one win, it's one game. You get back to 500. But my thing is like I don't want it for me personally. I don't care what other fans, whatever they just decide to believe. I don't want that to affect all the other things all the other issues that have come up in this tenure just because, hey, we're back to 500. Like, it's great that we're 500, but this team is not a 500 team.
No.
So that's my point. Is like, okay, we can celebrate it today, but really, like the second we end this session, like I'm already onto the Lions. Like, I could go back to back right now and record the Lions preview, but it's also getting late over where you're at, so I won't do that. But that's kind of my mentality of just like, all right, you know, good win, Victory Tuesday, but now it's like we're still looking at a fucking upward climb here.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. With everything that's happened so far in the early stages of the season, with some really tough losses, some bad wins, if you will. We're sitting here at 500. Schedule doesn't necessarily get any easier. It's kind of one of those. We play a really good opponent one week, then it drops off next week, and we kind
Yeah.
of go back and forth pretty much until the end of the year. But we survived MetLife with 0 injuries last night, which is
Ooh, dude.
huge.
Yeah,
That field is notorious. And I mean, yeah, just 1 week at a time. It's on to Detroit.
that's right, man. On to Detroit. This is gonna do it for our episode number 94. Our post game reaction to the Jets Chargers. Chargers defeat the Jets 27-6. You had a player lined up for the 94th episode. What you got?
Corey Legit, baby. Also,
Corey
shout out Chris
Hey.
Rumpf, but Corey Legit
Yeah,
taking it
Chris
back.
Brown, Corey
Corey
Legit. All
Legit's
right.
taking it back a little bit.
There you go. I like that one. That's solid. That's solid. Yeah. Uh, the Corey Lindsley, or not Corey Lindsley, Corey Legit edition of Chargers Powder Hour, episode number 94. So
Hey,
thank you
we can
guys for
only do
tuning
it.
in.
We can only do that for 6 more episodes. So I mean, we got to take
That's
advantage
true.
now.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Time
Yeah,
flies.
we only have a few opportunities to do that left, but yeah, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Chargers Powder Hour. Make sure to follow us on social media on Twitter and Instagram at Powder Hour Pod LA for all the latest news and updates about the podcast and about the Bolts. And as always, bolt up, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.